Australia is rushing headfirst into a national digital ID system, promising convenience, security, and a streamlined future. But let's pause for a moment. This is the same country where millions have already had their personal data stolen, from banks, airlines, universities, and even hospitals. The same government that failed to protect Medicare numbers, driver's licenses, and health records now wants us to trust them with a unified digital identity? Before we hand over even more of our private lives to a centralized system, let's take a hard look at the past. Because if history tells us anything, it's this: Australia's digital infrastructure is riddled with holes, and the government has been asleep at the wheel. Today, we are counting down the top 10 worst data breaches in Australian history, not just to relive the chaos, but to ask the real question. If they couldn't protect us then, what makes us think they'll protect us now? At number 10, we begin with the Australian Parliament House breach in 2019. Hackers targeted political networks, prompting a full password reset for all users. While the breach didn't expose millions of citizens, it was a wake-up call about the vulnerability of national institutions. Number 9 is the Melbourne Heart Group breach in 2019. Around 15,000 patients had their sensitive medical records exposed. It wasn't the biggest by volume, but the nature of the data, cardiology reports, diagnoses, and treatments, made it deeply personal. Coming in at number 8 is Service NSW in 2020. Cybercriminals accessed 104,000 documents, including scans of driver's licenses, birth certificates, and other identity records. The breach highlighted how government services can become prime targets. Number 7 is the Eastern Health ransomware attack in 2021. This incident disrupted hospital operations across Victoria, delaying surgeries and locking staff out of critical systems. It wasn't just a data breach, it was a direct hit on healthcare delivery. At number 6, we revisit the Australian National University breach from 2018. Hackers infiltrated nearly 2 decades of records, student details, payroll data, even passport numbers. Around 200,000 people were affected, and the attack was described as sophisticated, possibly state-sponsored. Now into the top 5, the breaches become not only bigger, but far more personal. Number 5 is the ProctorU breach in 2020, which exposed data from over 444,000 users, including students from major Australian universities. The leak included names, emails, and passwords, raising concerns about academic integrity and surveillance. Number 4 is Medibank in 2022. Nearly 9.7 million customers were caught up in a catastrophic breach that saw not only basic personal details exposed, but also health claim information. Imagine your medical history, conditions, treatments, even psychological notes, being dumped online. For many Australians, this breach wasn't just about privacy. It was about dignity. Number 3 is Optus breach in 2022. This was the one that stunned the country. Around 9.8 million Australians, nearly half the population, had their names, addresses, phone numbers, and in many cases, passport and driver's license numbers leaked. The fallout was brutal. People lined up to replace IDs, scams exploded, and the government was forced to consider emergency reforms to Australia's privacy laws. Number 2 is Latitude Financial in 2023. Cybercriminals stole sensitive identity documents from over 14 million customers. Driver's licenses, passports, and Medicare numbers were compromised. The breach wasn't just massive, it was a goldmine for identity thieves. And now, number 1. The single largest and most devastating breach in Australia's history, Canva, 2019. Over 137 million user accounts were compromised globally, including millions of Australians. Email addresses, usernames, and encrypted passwords were stolen. While financial data remained untouched, the scale of the attack shook confidence in one of Australia's fastest-growing tech companies. These top 10 breaches reveal a frightening pattern. Australia's critical sectors, telecoms, healthcare, finance, education, are all under siege. And the attackers are evolving, from lone hackers to state-sponsored groups. The question now isn't if another breach will happen. It's when, and how bad it will be. So, what do you think? Are companies and governments doing enough to protect your data, or is Australia sleepwalking into an even bigger cyber disaster?